You're listening to Radio Free Rhinecliff.
Welcome to Studio Property, the cinema podcast for people like you. I'm Doug Wartell.
I'm Devon Irby.
I'm Cody Ramone.
He's back. Back in the New York groove, except he's in Chicago. What the hell? I'm sorry. Sorry.
All right, this week we are discussing To Live and Die in L.A., circa 1985, directed by one William Friedkin. And I'm pausing here. Yeah, so you guys can discuss William Friedkin.
Let's see, William Friedkin. Cody, do you remember the show Night Flight? Are you old enough to remember that show?
No, I'm not familiar.
It's like an old music, like rock and roll pop culture show that would like just show like the Cars and also Iggy Pop. You know, so they have like a network now. It's only like $4.99 a month, and yes, I'm shilling for them for free. But I saw an interview with Billy Friedkin on this thing that went on for 3 hours, and it's just him unplugged. Just like you've heard him. I don't know. Have you ever heard him talk?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I haven't.
Oh, just somebody was just like, no leash for Billy Friedkin on this day. And yeah, he let it fly. So I can't recommend that enough. The network, and immediately go to that because that's
that's pretty awesome.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. All right. Well, so William Friedkin, and how did you describe this before, Doug? We are backdooring our way into the William Friedkin catalog.
to which Mike responded, "You're going to do cruising?" And
that's going. I think we side doored into it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So as we are going to learn today, Billy Friedkin gave us 3 of the greatest things that ever happened in cinema. That's The Exorcist, The French Connection, and a scantily clad Daphne from Frasier. History has been made by this man.
I love it.
Yeah, lick my scab, Francis Ford Coppola. But I'm gonna read some copy before we get to the theme song. Okay, ready? To Live and Die in L.A. is a gritty, amoral, neo-crime thriller, gorgeously shot against a bingo card of cop movie cliches. Robby Muller's cinematography shows us a sun-punished, unkept city, where retiring police captains are, quote, getting too old for this shit, while the young hotshots who take too many chances are whipped into obedience with just a single thread of paperwork. It's almost as if director William Friedkin peeked at the script of Stallone's Cobra and said, let me show you what would really happen to this asshole. How 1985 is this movie? Well, I'm glad that you did not ask that question, Devon. Because the answer, my friend, is blowing in the 8 Wang Chung songs that appear in this film. 1985 might have been the dance hall days, but they were also full of other garbage that played chicken with whoever owned the legal rights of the Neutron Dance. But excessive 80s cheese notwithstanding, To Live and Die in L.A. is also a brutal and cynical film that has one of the single greatest car chases since Bullitt and, of course, William Friedkin's own The French Connection. Oh, and there's also a brilliant film in here somewhere, I think.
Put that prop gun down. Put back the canisters you stole. The devil laughed out loud when you signed away your rotten soul. That's studio property, your studio property. Hey! Shut your mouth or you'll never work in Hollywood again.
I have to say right off the top, you took the words right out of my mouth, because my immediate thought upon seeing this film was, this is the most 1980s film that I have seen in a very long time.
Do you know the story of how Cobra was made? I'll just, if I can get as briefly as possible. It was supposed to be Beverly Hills Cop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then Stallone had the script, and he's all of a sudden changing it because he had that much power. Somebody decided he had that much power at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So like he sort of like Warren Beatty'd it into something else. And finally he just walked off and made his dumb Cobretti movie, and Eddie Murphy got to do the comedy that was like intended. Mm-hmm. This is why like that Cobra, Beverly Hills Cop, 2 years later after this film, Lethal Weapon, they all share that weird DNA where like the young cop is like, you know, You're a hot shot. And there's the older one who's like, I'm getting too old for this. It's interesting how the film is structured in a way where it accidentally parodies what's happening in police films at the time, right? Before it gets into its own twists and turns. Right.
I think I agree with you completely. And I think on my most recent watching for this episode, if you take it at its face value now, it is so 80s. But if you take a little bit of a step back and compare it to those other movies that you were talking about, it kind of does it best, almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree.
It does. The first 15 minutes, you're just like, really? Like, wow. Okay. Thanks. All right. Great.
Right.
I mean, there's a suicide bomber in the first 5 minutes.
Right.
Yes. And it's interesting because like the politics of that suicide bomber are something that we'd actually become the forefront of our consciousness.
Yes.
Decades later.
A little too close to home.
Yeah.
Right now. Yeah.
Yeah. If I could back up like 2 minutes before that scene, the beginning of the movie where Chance is coming out of the hotel room and you can hear old Ronald Reagan giving a speech in the background.
Yeah.
That's right.
He's a Secret Service agent.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, we're playing cards, blah, blah, blah. And they're doing like a shift change. And they say, I don't remember how they refer to him, but they refer to Reagan that he's going to stop by and play cards with them.
Yes.
Right.
And it made me laugh really hard. Like, are they going to come up and try to like call Ronnie's bluff? Like, I'm not Gorbachev, Ronnie. I know you don't have pocket jacks.
I'm not the AIDS crisis, Reagan. You can't ignore me.
Friedkin actually added that whole sequence, the suicide bomber beginning to kick off the movie, because this movie's based on a novel.
Yes.
Yeah.
By a guy who was actually in the Secret Service.
Oh.
Right.
So it's like, I mean, it's not accurate, I won't say, but like it's based on his knowledge and that kind of things. But yeah, every scene that Friedkin asked for, Gerald Pedovich wrote the novel.
I wouldn't have pronounced it any better than that.
Nice.
Every scene that Friedkin wanted to add, Pedovich actually wrote the scene. So he just told him what he wanted, and so it's in his same voice. So it actually, that's why you don't notice like nothing stands out as like being really out of place, because he like wove it into the story he had written for the novel, which is cool and a great respectful thing to do for
it is.
The original writer,
right? As opposed to every other Hollywood director who just got John Milius to come in and script doctor it on the spot.
Exactly.
Right.
If any listeners don't know John Milius, just imagine Walter from The Big Lebowski. That's what he looks like.
But he also gave you that great line, what does good in life? Then it ends with lamentation of the women.
Yes.
So, I don't remember the rest of it.
But I was thinking on upon my current watching of it was, first of all, I'm getting too old for this.
Yes.
Censored.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first movie that did it, because Lethal Weapon was like 2 years later.
Yes.
I was really excited when he said that line. I was like, this is where that comes from? That's awesome, because it's so overused. It became so overused, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is the original! That's so amazing!" And it was done. The fact that it's done in essentially a serious film made it that much better to me. And I was like, "That's so great!"
Devon, by the way, you want to roll these credits for us real quick, because I cut you off right there in the beginning.
Oh yeah, sure. Okay, so. As discussed, directed by one William Friedkin, and actually screenplay by William Friedkin and Gerald Pedovich. Cinematographer, I saw that and I was like, of course it's Robby Muller.
Robby Muller.
My German teacher and I had a whole conversation about it. And I was like, when I told her you said Motley Crue umlauts, she was like, yes. And she is an older gal. And I was like, but I love it. She was like, yep, Motley Crue umlauts. So Robby
Motley
Muller,
Crue's getting up there too. Like they can't even hide how terrible they were anymore.
That's true.
So yeah.
Music by, and it is actually listed as Wang Chung. Music by Wang Chung. And I was like, oh, this is going to kill me.
And AM, FM, and Rank and File will appear on Slash Records. Home of Faith No More.
Oh yeah, that was the whole conversation right there. But it stars, our main character is William L. Peterson as Richard Chance, Willem Defoe as Eric Masters, John Pankow as John Vukovich. Then we've got Deborah Foyer as Bianca Torres, John Turturro as Carl Cody. And at some point, we're going to have to explain who John Turturro is because, audience, if you don't know his name, you certainly know his face.
I feel like anyone who listens to this probably has to know who John Turturro is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess that's a good point. That's a good point.
I almost quoted "Do the Right Thing," and I remember he has all the terrible lines, and I should never do that on a microphone with a camera on my face, like ever.
No, please don't. Please don't.
Yeah.
Dean Stockwell is Bob Grimes, criminal attorney, which brought me so much joy. Not gonna lie.
Can we talk about Dean Stockwell just as a name? like if you'd never seen anything Dean Stockwell appeared in ever, if you just hear the actor's name, you know who he's playing every time.
Yes.
Like, and starring Dean Stockwell, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. He's
what
exactly who you
powerful
think he is.
sleazeball is he going to be this time?
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. You know.
Oh, that was great. The other character that I was a little tickled by was Robert Downey Sr. is in this film. Not a main part, but he was Thomas Bateman. And I was like, oh, Robert Downey Sr. is in this movie.
A director of Putney Swope.
There we go.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the small role that we must mention is, as you pointed out before, Jane Leaves as the random lady at the strip club.
I think
who's in the movie a lot.
I think her credit is dancer.
Is it? Is it dancer?
Yeah. Her credit is actually get out of my dreams and into my car. That's how it's listed in the VHS box in my mind.
Which annoyed me a little bit that she didn't have a name because I was like, she's clearly in this film. She deserves a name. Right?
Yeah.
She deserves a name.
I thought her character's name should, while I was watching it, should be just like, you have to bleep this, just fuck me eyes. That's all she does.
Yes, the
I'm just
entire
gonna leave it
every
there
scene.
because I'll take it too far. Like if we're playing blackjack, I'm in a stick. But yeah, let's get to this first clip. Here we have our bomber terrorist. This is right at the top of the film, shouting a bunch of stuff with sticks of dynamite duct taped around his body. They're on a rooftop, and he's trying to assassinate President Ronald Reagan.
I am a martyr! I will bomb myself on you and all the enemies of Islam! Allahu Akbar!
Boom!
Damn.
Yep. Wait for it.
Let's get out of here, Jimmy. Go play some cards, get drunk.
I'm getting too old for this shit.
I love it. The thing is, the panting is my own anticipation. That wasn't even in the clip. That was out of me. For him to say it.
And the thing that sets it up is, oh, you just watched a suicide bomber. We just thwarted a suicide bomber and saved the president's life. Let's just play cards and get drunk. That'll take care of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the answer.
That's the kind of 80s stuff that,
felt very real. I was like, oh, that's some real 80s stuff right there because it felt very real. Like, yeah, that'd been their response.
I mean, again, a little too close to home, a little too real.
I was watching the movie and I looked at the time code when that happened. That guy explodes at 4:58 in the movie. It is literally the first 5 minutes. That includes the credit, the MGM logo and all that. It's like 5 minutes in.
Our main character is Chance, Richard Chance.
Yeah, yes. Richard Chance. So he is our young Secret Service agent. And then Michael Green plays Jimmy Hart. So Jimmy Hart is the I'm too old for this shit agent who's now going to retire. So as Cody said, 5 minutes into the movie, not even 5 minutes in, we've had a suicide bombing, which was fairly graphic, I might add. And so this clearly instigates our senior Secret Service guy being like, I need to retire now. So that's kind of where
I've seen enough. We're all done.
Yeah, we're done.
Yeah.
Like, as he said, he's quite literally too old for this shit, and now he's going to take a break.
But before he goes, he's going to go on one last scout mission.
Which, of course, we all know as the audience is not a good idea. So we pick up, they're in L.A. and they are investigating counterfeiters, money laundering and counterfeiting.
So they go from being like protecting the president to now being in the police department.
Well, the Secret Service handles counterfeiting.
Right, okay.
Because they work for the Treasury. History lesson, kids.
Yeah, see? I set it up there. He was the bass player of Schoolhouse Rock. Go ahead, Devon. I'm sorry.
So clearly, the way I viewed it was they must normally do the Treasury work, but because the president was in town for this speech, they were, had to do this extra Secret Service work. So now they're going back to their regular stuff. And
not to interrupt you, Devon, but because it's the 80s, they'll never tell you why.
Exactly. So this is where we pick up that they've been chasing somebody that they suspect of money laundering and counterfeiting, which is specifically this Eric Masters, who is an artist, which apparently he is a good artist, but also is a criminal on the side. So he's this lovely juxtaposition of I do nice art and then I do illegal art, apparently. Which essentially is because they get like that scene where they aggressively get into him making the counterfeit money. It's very technical and very artistic.
Yeah.
It's very specific.
There's a scene spent on this where a dwarf who was an artist went to prison to like help the prisoners, but like with art therapy or whatnot, and recognized Eric Masters' talent. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was a good piece of character work right there. We see that someone had actually seen potential in this person. Mm-hmm. And he, like, his character dresses how Willem Defoe dresses in real life now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's just like cool as hell. Like you kind of root for him because you're like, oh, I want to be that cool one day. And, so.
And he also knows he's that cool. The character knows he's that cool, which kind of,
he burns his paintings because they're too good.
Which is so.
I also had a sidebar. I wrote this down when I was watching the movie. Do you think his character sold art at Victor Maitland's gallery from Beverly Hills Cop?
Oh my God, I hope
so. Well done.
I love it
all together.
Yep.
6 degrees of Wang Chung.
Yep.
Oh man. Dialing it back in now. Yes. So our old guy, Jim Hart, has a lead where he thinks maybe there's a warehouse that he thinks maybe the counterfeiters are working at, and makes a point of going by himself, is aggressive about, nah, I'm just going to stake it out. I'm going by myself. Dear Lord. And of course, then the expected happens at that point. The criminals are there and poor Mr. Hart gets whacked.
And brutally, too.
Brutally, yeah. Very brutally.
All of the violence and murder in this is very brutal.
Yeah, it's not funny. Like, it could not be lightened up by all the Wang Chung in the world. Like, it is brutal when he gets it. And what's also weird, if we can rewind for a second, there was a scene between Peterson and that actor before it happens outside of his retirement party. Mm-hmm. Where that foreshadows what we're describing now. The conversation, which is just like an exposition dump, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is why in the very, very beginning of the film, I would say like the first third feels like you're watching a video game, but what you don't understand is it's setting you up for a completely different film. Mm-hmm. Right? That's fair, right?
Oh, yeah. It's like a roller coaster. Like you slowly go up the steep hill and then you just...
And you think you know what it is. Like you definitely like, you're like, oh, that's cheesy and and oh, that's brutal. And then it takes a turn. But my point is like the conversation between the two of them, like it just looks like a B movie, right? Like that's one scene where I'm kind of like, well, this is teetering that like that weird ass line where you're like, should the Mystery Science Theater guys be talking over this? It was just kind of odd.
The reason for that, Friedkin didn't want the movie to be overly rehearsed. He wanted it to feel really natural. Often, a lot of them are first takes that he used. And then he also would roll the camera when they were rehearsing. So it could literally be a rehearsal.
Interesting.
Yeah, we should actually remark on his method right about here. William Friedkin is notorious for this. William Friedkin is so much so that if I tell you certain scenes in certain movies to look for, you'll see the camera crew reflected in cars. And when this is pointed out to him, he famously would say, well, if you noticed it, then I did a bad job. But he didn't want take after take. No. If he felt he got it, he moved on. That was it. And I guess he never lost anything.
I think this movie overall is the most successful. It's really successful at that, technically and acting wise. Because after the first third, it's a little bit
it's rocky. Yeah,
it's rocky. But once you get rolling into it, it actually works really well. And the thing I looked really closely. There's a scene far later between Willem Defoe and his lady. Mm-hmm. And when you realize that he walks in, it's a mirror. The whole wall is a mirror behind him. Right. They specifically, you see it, you notice it.
Right.
And she's sitting there and it's a wide shot. You don't see the camera. You don't see any shadows. I was looking specifically, I'm like, wow, well done.
There's a shot in The French Connection where you see the crew in the car. That's definitely true. Yeah.
Well, who didn't he have on The French Connection?
Robby Muller.
Robby Muller.
I think that saved him a lot this time.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into it a little bit later. It's funny that when because Cody, this is actually Cody's recommendation before we move on, and the way you sold it, you're like, I love this movie. And I'm like, I think we have the same favorite cinematographer.
Yeah.
It's probably true.
This is one of those movies that, if shot by anyone else, the flaws that we are pointing out first before the movie takes a turn would be glaring and unforgivable had he not shot it. Would you agree?
Yeah, agreed.
This movie is actually, and your description at the top of the show was really perfect. How he shot, it's still a beautifully shot movie. There's still some beautiful things in it, but you get the feeling of disgusting L.A. On top of it. And it's really masterfully done. He has such a light touch in terms of you could imagine Jerry Bruckheimer did it, you would have thrown up in the car chase 3 times.
Yeah.
Or if somebody else had done it, it would have been boring.
Yeah.
It could have been really, really static and underwhelming. It's not overly frenetic. It has a grit to it, but not too much. Nothing's leaned into it. It feels natural and realistic.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And it almost like you're watching a documentary way sometimes. Mm-hmm. The longer you're sitting with it, you're like, I guess I live here now. There's a scene even when he rings a doorbell. And if you've ever been into a project housing building, when you press that doorbell and it doesn't, it's like clunk, clunk. It's and the sound design in this movie is wild. It runs the gamut. But when he hits that doorbell and it's that project housing doorbell, you're in it. You're in LA.
It's so realistic.
Yeah. From here, we now have our foundation, right? Our Agent Chance, a young William Peterson, is obviously torn apart that his older, much respected mentor / friend / partner has been murdered. Oh, also, did anybody else think it was interesting that with all the graphicness of this film, they chose not to show the dead body?
Yeah.
Right? It was really interesting. I thought it was a really interesting choice. Yeah.
I liked it because those guys were actually, their performances are pretty excellent. I would have left the camera on them too. Just live in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they're clearly, and of course we know where he was killed. We're following it. We know what happened. Right. So we're seeing what's coming, but they're finding out. So he now has to live with this, and he clearly is not okay. So he's been assigned a new partner. This poor, so John Pankow is John Vukovich, and poor Vukovich just gets sucked into, I wouldn't even say Chance's insanity. It's his emotional response to the death of the significant person in his life that just sends him on. I mean, the rest of the movie is him spiraling dragging this poor kid along. Let's
sit with this guy. Yeah, let's sit with this guy for a minute. What's his first name? John
Vukovich.
Okay, so John
is the character.
Right, and also the actor John Pankow, right? So,
John Pankow, yeah.
Well, I mean, the most interesting part about this character is he takes the place of the partner. And this guy's by the book, crosses the T's, dots the I's, much to Peterson's chagrin, who's now on this like ruthless justice hunt, who himself is getting corrupted by his own obsession.
I'm not sure if we have any scenes from this whole section, but the spiraling is aggressive as far as they've got it. They know who it is. They know it's this guy Masters, but Masters also knows that they're onto him. So it's, this cat and mouse game basically between two mentally unstable people with this poor kid getting towed along. And the other characters that hit me in these moments are, let's introduce our bad guy Masters, his girlfriend, who there's a lot happening with that lady, Bianca.
Modern dance.
Right? There's a lot going on there.
It's, right?
Modern dance. And then
all I'm going to say is Daryl Hannah in Legal Eagles. Go ahead.
There's that whole element. And then we also find out that Chance, that Peterson's character, has a lady informant who clearly works at like the same strip club. She or like she's somehow working at this club. And so she's his informant, but he also was like sexually extorting her as part of it.
Let's stay here. Let's stay here for a moment, because that is the power dynamic of that relationship is where you first get a whiff of just how evil this guy is turning. The police officer we're talking about now.
Yeah.
And it also gives you this moment of, he was already on that ledge before his partner died, because he's clearly had this relationship for a while. It's clearly been going on for a while. And you get a weird feeling that she understands there's something of a power dynamic, but she also kind of likes him too.
Yeah.
You kind of get this, like, you can see there's almost like a little bit, or at least I didn't get the feeling that he felt the same way.
Right.
I really didn't think that he really liked her other than for what she provided, information and sex.
Right.
But she kind of thought maybe she was getting something else out of it, but it's a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's first of all, the sex scene though, well shot and choreographed. I mean, that is that's almost Tony Ritelli work.
It is almost Tony Ritelli work.
Right.
And may I just say, this is my little sidebar story that I have to share with you too. So I was speaking to Danielle, somebody we mutually know.
Well, it's our cousin.
Right? So our cousin. So I was speaking to our cousin Danielle. We were talking about other episodes.
If you haven't caught on yet, ladies and gentlemen, this show is just all cousins, by the way.
It's just a cousins collective.
Yeah.
So she was like, "What movie are you guys discussing coming up?" I said, "This movie." I said, "William Peterson was in it," and she goes, "Oh, and William Peterson, when he was a young man, was pretty darn handsome." And I was like, well, there's some unexpected, to me at least, full frontal nudity in this film, should you be interested. And I was like, I was a little surprised because I wasn't ready for it. On the other hand, I did also explain to her that it was not the man who fell to earth, ripped torn flaccid penis. I'm like, at least it wasn't that, but it was still very,
No. It was a dangle. It was a poppin' fresh.
Exactly. It was a poppin' fresh. It was wholeheartedly a poppin' fresh. But I was very, that was unexpected.
Back then he worked out.
Clearly.
Right? Well, we'll say that, right? Definitely. But he did 15 years on CSI. Did you know that? Yeah. 15 years he was on that show.
I mean,
I didn't know that show was on for that
long.
And
he was cast because of this film.
I think he was cast in everything because of this film.
Really? Yeah, probably.
He's in Manhunter after this.
Yeah.
Also, he's over 70 now.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. He did
you're right.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm sure because this was his first major movie. So
and he's quite good in it. I mean, he's good.
He's very good.
And he's so good that they couldn't afford, it was a low budget movie, relatively speaking. So they couldn't afford stars. So Friedkin started dipping into I need some just great actors that'll work for scale or whatever. And somebody recommended Peterson, and Peterson got the job. He auditioned with Friedkin. He did half a page of the script, and Friedkin's like, "That's it, you got it."
That's a great audition.
Yeah,
So he crushed it. And
Yeah.
obviously he's amazing in the movie. So,
but also says a lot about Friedkin that that's all he needed to be like, oh yeah, you're the one, you're the guy.
I mean, he is really good in the movie. Also, he does his own driving stunts.
yeah, which
most of that
Really?
which
driving
is why
him.
John Pankow is in the back seat, literally like crapping himself
Vomiting?
because he's
Yeah.
he's genuinely scared.
Not wild.
That's insane.
And also, what we didn't get into, and I thought this was going to pay off in a different way. What never pays off is the fact that the officer Peterson, I'm sorry, Dick Chance, Officer Chance, is a bungee jumper, and he jumps off the bridge.
Yeah.
Like at one point, I thought this was going to be a thing, like a scene or something was going to do that. No, they're just showing you he's a hot dog.
Yeah, I think it's just he's crazy.
Right.
Yeah. But ultimately, we end up with the craziness of our poor, extorted young lady. Because, I mean, I don't know. What else?
Like, could you imagine that kind of a power dynamic with a snitch? Right? Like, you're using her for sex and information. And then she asks him at one point straight up, like, if I wasn't giving information, what would happen to me? And he says right to us, knowing there's an audience, like, you would go back to jail.
Yeah.
And you're just like, damn.
It's very cold. It's very cold. So she tells him that somebody from the club has mentioned there's some Asian guy, that is not how they say it, but there's some Asian gentleman who apparently
that's not how they say it.
I'm going
to refer back to the Big Lebowski for that reference as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
they do not say Asian guy.
No, they do not.
Nope.
So that he's going to come in and he like buys and sells diamonds and things. So
right.
Basically, so we've got that little tidbit, and essentially what we figured out is they've made a connection. They got somebody to give him a connection to Masters, to the bad guy, but they need cash to be able to try to get this bust. And the Secret Service won't do it. The Treasury won't provide it. So our friend Chance gets it in his head. Well, why don't we go steal the diamond guy's cash, and then we'll have cash,
which is $50,000, right? I didn't do the calculation this week because I generally do that on the show. Is like try to figure out with inflation how that goes. But it's $50,000 is apparently a big deal in
1985. Yeah.
1985, yeah.
And again, we get our new partner, Vukovic, is just kind of getting sucked in, and he tries to say no. He's, trying to be like...
He puts up a good fight.
He does put up a good fight.
He's
like,
a hamburger
no.
to say no.
Yeah, yes. He does do that. I've done that. I've done that for less things. For less things, I've done that. Like, I'll bite this.
Very accurate male thing to do.
Like, no, I'm not watching Drag Race again this week. I don't care how close Jinx is to winning. Yeah.
So this is where we are. They need the cash so they can set up Masters so they can actually catch him. So they're going to go rob this guy, which of course leads to an insane scene with an insane result, in the midst of which is a spectacular car chase.
Yes.
Now, it's kind of weird. It peters along in the way that I described earlier. Like, even after the murders, you'll see a brutal murder, and then Wang Chung. And then as they're walking away from a dead body, it's freaking dance hall days. Like, like...
It's insane.
It's wild. But then, like, the Asian guy gets off the plane. Things go awry. They get the money from him. He ends up getting murdered, the Asian guy. They have to run away from the murderers. And it turns out there's a lot of murderers. And they're seemingly coming out of nowhere. And we'll tell them why when it's appropriate. But this car chase, which took 6 weeks to shoot, is one of the wildest things I had ever seen. Like, I've not seen a car chase this good since that didn't involve CGI. Or something.
Agreed.
And the crazy part is they were talking about doing the car chase, and Friedkin was like, said to the stunt coordinator, he's like, if it's not as good as the French Connection, I'm not putting it in the movie. He's like, you can try it. Like, he's like, go ahead, work on it. But if it's not as good as The French Connection, it's not going to be in the movie.
He was talking to the stunt coordinator, who was Billy Joe Hooker, who was just one of the, if you're gonna Google a name, that would be the one. No, I mean, not just because his name is Hooker.
Yeah.
I'm saying because, like, you know, he's an incredible legend.
Yeah. And obviously,
I just heard you guys giggling, and I was like,
no, I'm laughing because you're totally
Hooker,
right. No. You're right, because that's like a funny thing to say to someone so qualified.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. I made a really bad mistake here. Don't Google Hooker.
Or put the child safety lock on your browser first.
Yeah.
When that's your prompt, it has to be better than The French Connection, which, to the audience, if you haven't watched The French Connection, that car chase is also top 10, top 5 movie car chases
of all time.
It's amazing,
right? Like,
it's the best.
Yeah, I think the only one that comes close to it in that time, I'll say in that time period, just to be safe, although I do think it's in definitely top 3, right? Is Bullet.
Right.
That's the only thing that even,
the funny part, though, is that The French Connection and To Live and Die in L.A. are surrounded by good movies, and Bullet is just a car chase in a mediocre movie.
Right. That's true. That's definitely fair.
But I mean, and I was going to pose this to you two. If
I'm sorry, you know what? I just thought of something. I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt you, Cody. I remember I lost a tooth watching Bullet when I was little, but Robert Evans lost his wife.
Oh,
ouch!
Damn.
He's dead. What's he gonna do? I'm dead, baby.
Yeah.
So my question to you two is, if old Rick Chance had his gun to your head, which car chase is better, To Live and Die in L.A. or The French Connection?
It's close.
Yeah.
It's close. I mean, it's weird because my stepfather's apartment is in the first in French Connection.
Oh, yeah?
And some of the camera work is shot literally from the apartment.
Wow.
Really?
A lot of the overhead shots. Yeah. So, yeah, and the roof of that building.
I don't.
That's my step. You know, the building where they were chasing, where Hackman was chasing him. That was my stepfather's childhood home.
I think for me, it takes a turn when they get into the ravine, when they like kind of get into the ravine, and then suddenly there are like cars coming from everywhere. Like for me, I was like, oh,
it does get crazy,
right? It gets crazy, and things just sort of ratcheted it up. Like, you know, it suddenly got turned up to an 11, and I was like, oh man, yeah, I wasn't expecting it to get that intense.
You'll find out later why there's so many killers present. But also that ravine, Devon, that's Thunder Road from Greece.
Yeah. Okay, I kind of thought, I was like, I've been here before. Why have I been here before?
It's in so many movies.
Greece, okay.
It's in Gone in 60 Seconds, the Nicolas Cage one.
Yep, okay.
It's in Transformers. Sorry.
Awesome. Okay.
The rules on Thunder Road is there ain't no rules.
Sidebar. If you just crossed Greece with Transformers, how amazing would that be?
I would watch that.
I would watch that.
Optimus Prime singing and dancing. I mean.
Oh, done. Yay.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of some of the key lines in Grease Lightning specifically. And yes, I would love to see Optimus Prime describe himself as a real puppy wagon. Yeah. I would.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm just telling you.
I'm pitching that.
Yeah.
And the car flies off, so it's just Optimus Prime and Sandra Dee. Just
Oh, that'd be great.
Like, what did Sandra Dee just give Bumblebee? A lock of hair from her chest. Yeah. All right, we can do this all day. We can do this all day.
Oh, I love it.
Sorry, it's always a brainstorm.
No.
Sorry.
All right, going back to gun to the head. Like, I think it's To Live and Die in L.A. Because I just think,
I agree.
Like,
I agree.
It's
vomiting inducing.
Well, and honestly, poor Vukovic in the back seat is half of why it's that good. Because it's him reacting how you think a real person would react in that moment. Like, he's just getting tossed around. And
you usually just you have the person who's driving, like, I got to get from A to B. I got to do this. I got to escape. And then when you have like a passenger just like, what are you doing?
The whole time, like,
we're gonna die.
It is terrifying. It is so freaking terrifying. And also like the handheld stuff. is wild with the bumps of the car and also the continuity that they reach when they're leaping over certain things, and then you get the close-ups from the front where you're like, oh no, this was storyboarded to the nines.
It's so it's the handheld stuff gives you effect, but again, it's not gonna like shake your fillings out in the movie theater. Like it's not uncomfortable.
The sound design too, though.
Yeah.
And also, again, because it's 85, right? So they don't have access to the things that all filmmakers have access to now, right? So so much more of it it's practical, it's happening, right? They're having to, put a little bit more worked, physical, a little bit more, elbow grease into it.
$1 million because they went $1 million over budget.
Oh. But worth it, people.
Yeah.
It was.
Absolutely worth it. And I'm wondering also because like we think about some of the car chases that have happened since, and some are very fresh in Devon's mind because she watched all the Bond films. So I hate to bring this Bond film up, but Quantum of Solace begins with a wild car chase, right? Like, or any of the Bourne films, right? Like, I'll have like, especially because of the shattering glass, like that one depends on a lot of stuff. They still don't feel as fast as they are and as wild and as loud as they are. They don't feel like they have the stakes that
I think the closest is Ronin with Robert De Niro.
I've never seen it.
I know what it is, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's got a similar vibe. Like they're in regular cars. They're in Paris, in traffic. Like it's got that similar vibe of just, it's one car trying to catch another car, but they're in everyday sedans. There's a lot of traffic. Like it's really wild. Like it's again, very, very well done. That was in the like late 90s. So again, no CGI shenanigans or anything like that. Just really well made like car chase. That's probably the closest, but still not quite as frantic and like nail biting.
No, but also it also benefits from because they're going against traffic.
Right.
So there's a point where they're like surrounded, and then he immediately makes the decision to go the wrong way. And then
please tell me
that is scary as hell.
Please tell me you loved that he announced he was going the wrong way. And he was like, we're going this way. Like there's a stop.
Right. After the close-up of the sign that says wrong way. Yeah.
Do not enter. And he's like, we're going this way. And I was like, thanks for letting us know.
Hey, audience, I'm going this way. The thing that's wild about that scene also is there's like levels to the car chase. Like it starts, those narrow alleyways is the first sort of movement of it, where there's all these people unloading trucks.
Yep.
Then they have to dodge forklifts, which I don't know if you ever driven one of those, have propane tanks on the back.
Horrified.
You know, like, so they're getting past all of that stuff with inches to spare, only to get on the highway and then dodge all of that. Oh, then there's the train crossing.
Yeah.
This thing has levels to it.
It's insane.
And it is incredible. Look, it's worth the price of admission just for that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You could just watch, you know, I mean, I recommend people watch the whole movie, but you could just watch from them, from the Asian gentleman getting killed until the end of the car chase. That's a heck of a movie in and of itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we have to talk about the first twist. We've noticed that our main character has taken a dark turn. He's even started to look really kind of grimy. Yeah. Right? This is also signaled visually with a pair of douchebag cop sunglasses.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? They've become very important. These are just like, he puts them on and he's just a dick. Right? Like, there's no other way to put it. This change is happening right before our eyes. Like we said, he has this relationship with the snitch that had been going on for a while. So this turn had already started before his partner. Right? Like, he was bound to be a dick. Right? Either way, the partner just gave him he was like a scream looking for a mouth, and by golly,
good description.
But what happens is, it turns out that the Asian man that ended up dying over this debacle before getting robbed by our quote unquote heroes was an undercover FBI agent. And it's learned in the roll call. That morning. So the information he got from the snitch was bunk. So,
and of course, it explains why so many people were after them, because they were the FBI handlers. They're all literally FBI.
Yeah. I'm just putting this together, like, and pardon my brain for being slow. They call it out in the roll call and describe them and the car they were driving as the suspects.
Yeah.
right.
Pretty accurate.
By the way, they even mentioned that it was they had to get that from the impound. Yeah. They mentioned that. So there is paperwork in that police station that ties them to that car. Uh-huh. This is never addressed. This is never addressed even once.
No. I mean, I think it's just that, like, it's the 80s. They took the license plates off, and by the time they found it, like, the movie was over. It's like 3 days later, and that was that. But
I think we should just go ahead and give away what happens at the end, because it is, if you're listening and you haven't seen the film, we're just going to go ahead and skip to there because we're running along. So we're on the radio and they yell at me for things like this.
Right.
So, like, I can't, like, look at them and be like, no, I will not do paperwork. No, I can't do that.
Well, the radio is more hardcore than the Secret Service, apparently.
Well, I have to say, right here is where I had a ridiculously joyous moment, because, as you say, hold on, because, like you said, okay, so we had our first twist with the FBI agent, and then this is where we basically get our second twist. I couldn't remember the last time I was genuinely surprised by a twist that had happened in a film, because I don't know. I watch a lot of movies. We all watch a lot of movies. So I tend to figure out what's going on. Also, I'm married to Mr. Spock. And so he'll be like, I hope nothing bad happens. So he's, says that whenever, So I was just genuinely delighted that we get to our big moment. And then there was a twist that actually surprised me.
Which twist are you talking about now?
When they go to bust Mr. Masters, and it results in Chance and the bodyguard killing each other. And suddenly he's just dead.
Yep. It's a little bit, I'm just going to describe it for you. It's a little bit like The Departed and a little bit like Miami Vice at the same time.
Yeah. It's a good description. Yeah. And suddenly we're just like, oh, and it's just so, that was part of it too.
Boom, that's it.
Yeah, boom, that's it. It wasn't just that he suddenly is dead. It's that it was so aggressively, boom. It was graphic, like you said, part Departed, part Miami Vice. Suddenly these two guys are dead. Yeah. And then our poor Vukovich is like, and it's complete panic. And he's like, oh my God, what do I do now?
The guy's face is blown up and he's like, talk to me.
Yes. And I'm like, oh, hun. No, it's not happening. Yeah. He's gone. He's gone, sweetheart. No. He's gone.
You precious summer child.
Yeah, it's like, no, oh, honey, no. But it was genuinely the way it all played out was genuinely such a surprise, because you so aggressively are primarily following Chance the whole time. And then just, there was a snap and his face was blown off. And that was it.
There were a couple of moments. Yeah. I mean, there were even a couple of moments where I thought his partner was going to somehow bring him back from this abyss that he was heading toward.
Yeah.
Because you got to remember, there's a whole subplot with John Turturro that we're not going to get all into right now, but like John Turturro is like worked for Eric Masters, but he's trying to get him to turn snitch without the sex part. And
we don't know.
Takes him out. Right. Well, that's true. We don't know. But he gets him signed out of prison to like, but then Turturro escapes.
Oh,
right?
You mean not?
And then he gets caught again.
Yeah. Carl Cody.
Yeah.
Carl Cody.
Carl Cody.
Yeah. Carl Cody. Right. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. So he's getting him, so. But
he doesn't report it back to the judge, we learn. So like, we're just watching this police officer's downfall piece by piece by piece. And you're like, oh, maybe he'll get redeemed. Like, maybe it'll be an 80s thing where the revenge redeems him or some crazy notion like that. But nope. Gets shotgunned to the face. Ha-cha-cha.
Yeah. Basically, ha-cha-cha. Oh, my God. And so then, of course, where do we end? Poor Vukovich chases Masters, and that ends insanely. And for a hot second, I was like, oh, my God, is everybody going to die? And then Vukovich comes through it.
Good fire stunt, by the way. Excellent
It was
fire stuff.
Great fire
Yeah,
stunt.
it was
Yeah.
that-
And the camera stayed there
A
for
while.
a hot minute.
Yeah.
I wasn't punning. Yeah, it was like the camera stayed on.
It was
Like that
Yeah.
whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But-
that whole thing was aggressive and graphic, and it was amazing. And then we just land on, okay, all of these shenanigans have happened. Where are we going to go from here? And
it's layers of betrayal.
Mhm.
yeah,
And the ending, and this is the resolution of the movie. You find out that everyone was lying.
yeah.
The lawyer,
Mm.
what's his name again?
Oh,
Dean Stockwell.
Dean Stockwell as Bob Grimes, the criminal attorney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Bob Grimes,
Yeah.
played by Dean Stockwell,
Yes.
was going to be your informant. Really, was going to help you. Turns out he was betraying them. Turns out that even Masters, but played brilliant. I mean, seriously, Willem Defoe.
Yeah.
Oh,
is
yeah.
incredible.
Eric
This is an
Masters.
early
Yeah,
role
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
incredible. He's got to be one of my favorite actors of all time.
So, yeah,
Probably
he's
the
great in this.
probably the one who's worked the most of anyone I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But like, incredible performance. But yeah, his own girlfriend was like
Yeah.
doing him dirty.
Yeah.
And then she ends up leaving with Daphne.
Yep.
Which, good move, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good move, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the
So-
part of the ending I enjoyed. I was like, all right, ladies.
Me too.
Yeah, you go
Me-
get you some joy. Okay. Yeah.
Me too.
Mhm.
Into my car. Right. So like what happens is he the partner,
Vukovic.
John Yukovich, is now seen walking toward a building with a new set of douchebag cop sunglasses. That got passed to him like the quickening. And now he's a dick because his partner died.
Mm-hmm.
And it ends on him going to the snitch's apartment as she's packing to leave town, being like, "Hey, where you going? I figured out you set us up." And she's denying it, but he looks at her and he's like, "You work for me now." And there's a quick flash of like an older sex scene with Peterson just to remind you of, by the way, what he means is rape.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Ha-cha-cha.
Yeah. Ha-cha-cha.
And then Wang Chung credits.
And then we wing chung into the sunset. Yeah.
Not just tonight,
Nope.
every night.
Forever.
That's right.
I feel like they were the authors of the first tub thumping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
way.
Mhm.
Good call.
You know.
If you watch, which I don't know why I did, if you watch the credits all the way to the end,
I did.
did you
Mhm.
did you
Yeah.
get the
I did.
flash of William Peterson at the end?
Yes.
Because there's a little like second of him standing,
Yeah.
like his face.
Why?
I don't know.
Like, why? Is that an error?
Like that's
So weird.
that's a terrible post credit scene.
That's no Marvel movie
No.
post credits right there.
They ain't gonna help me with any with the Fantastic Four flick.
Nope. Not at
Or
all.
maybe that's where it starts, which whew,
Maybe it's time to figure that out right now with America's favorite segment. Let's franchise this, comma, baby. If you're just tuning in, this is the segment in which Devon and now Cody and I will try to repurpose the content we just described for cash money hoes.
Cash
So
money hoes.
money. Right.
Mhm.
So this is one of the first episodes where you and I didn't discuss like what we think it should be or anything. So we're just going to give our ideas. We're going to pitch all three of them to the audience and see where we're going.
Mhm.
Unless, Cody looks worried. But you want to go first? Go first, Devon.
Okay. So for me, I decided, first of all, thank you for selecting this because I really enjoyed this. I just was really surprised by how much I enjoyed the whole thing and how good it all was. So I just thought this is far enough into the future that this is due for a remake. So I thought I would be absolutely good with a remake, but I think I would want the remake to take place today. So basically the same concept. So I realize it wouldn't necessarily be counterfeiting cash. It's probably more like money-related cybercrime is
Right.
what I assumed it would be. I'd still want it to be in L.A. because I think it's got to be in L.A. And I still like that it would be Secret Service because they still work for the Treasury. And so I think all of that does work and I think it makes sense and I think it can be done today. the car chase has to stay in 100%. And I know that's a big ask. So I think whoever is the chosen stunt coordinator is going to have to get that exact same speech of, if it's not as good as the original, it does not go into this film. And it is why we are remaking this film. So it's got to be that good. So
wow,
that's how I would approach it. So, okay, this is my chosen cast.
Okay.
I think, here's my little, because I feel like the movie had a twist, so I have a twist. My twist is, I think Jim Hart, the old agent, should be played by William Peterson.
Ooh.
Because I feel like because he could be retiring, right? So I think he should play Jim Hart. I think that'd just be like a weird, fun twist.
That's like Robert Mitchum's cameo in Cape Fear.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. So I thought that would be kind of cool. And then so the rest of the cast, I think Glenn Powell, I think would be a good chance. Richard Chance. He seems pretty popular now.
And we got to sell this thing.
And we got to sell this thing, right? Because I feel like this is a bigger budget than some of the other films we're redoing. So I thought, he would be good. I think we go Jeremy Allen White for Vukovich as the young guy that gets tugged along and then gets turned into an asshole at the end. Yeah. So I thought that would be good.
Right.
I decided Bob Grimes or a criminal attorney. I want to go a different route, and I want to do like Laura Linney or like a Michelle Pfeiffer. I want an older, solid lady who's just like, I am in charge and I'm a criminal attorney, and you're going to think that I'm helping you, but I'm screwing everybody over, right? Because it's not a big part, but it's got to be
I'm a dirty birdie.
Yeah, it's got to be like a real and like I just want to see every scene that she's in needs to have like a power suit,
Right.
So so that was kind of I feel like Laura Linney would be perfect, but I thought if we want to go a bit, I don't know, almost a bit sexier, I think I'd do like Michelle Pfeiffer, right? Just like an older attorney lady who's just like, Then I think we should go Sophie Turner for our poor Ruth Lanier, the informant. Because I feel like she could play Broken. Right? Because it's
you are killing it this week, by the way. Go ahead. Yeah. Wow. These are all great choices.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, I thought I just feel like because we need somebody young, very attractive, but can be very broken, but also because we are aware that there's a very graphic sex scene. So I was like, I could handle that. And then my ridiculous choice, because I did want to do something ridiculous, is for our criminal mastermind, Eric, aka Rick Masters. I think we go Daniel Radcliffe. Because I just think it's insane.
He was great as Weird Al.
Well, I think because that character is like intense and goofy, and he's real kooky and crazy and kind of a psychopath. And I just thought Daniel Radcliffe would be really like half funny, but also really good at being serious at being a psychopath, because he is quite good. I just thought it'd be really funny.
He's a really good actor,
but
also
be kind of funny if Daniel Radcliffe was randomly the counterfeiting guy. So that is my.
And he comes kind of with a built-in audience. I don't want to get into it because we're running long,
right? But no, you're correct. He comes with a built-in audience. So that is my.
I'm speaking of dirty birds. They're all dirty
yes.
Birdies,
So that is my So I think a remake today, basic same plot.
I love it. I love it.
That's my cast. Thank you guys. Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, I put some real thought into this one.
What do you got, Cody?
Yeah, I was on the fence about it, but I'm not going to beat Devon's remake. So I'm going sequel as a limited series because people love binge watching stuff. Yeah, and Amazon owns MGM now, so
Oh, okay.
And again, they got to make up for all that James Bond money they ain't gonna get.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yep. So shout out to Barbara Broccoli for holding the line.
So it'll be happy for us to rub two nickels together. My first thought was to go sequel, takes place now, and it's Ruth hires the other two ladies to take down Vukovich, who is still causing her trouble.
We're pretty close. We're actually, you and I are pretty close on this. Go ahead.
Because I was going to have John Pankow still be Vukovich. Because he's still around.
Yeah, I have to say, I have the same thing. Go ahead, keep going. Yeah, we're very close on this. Go ahead.
The only thing I haven't figured out is because Darlan Flugel passed away, so she played Ruth,
right.
So she can't still. So we'd have to recast Ruth.
Okay. Roseanne Arquette.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, that is good.
And that's not even the choice. I didn't even put her in mind.
That's really good. The other thing I was thinking of is the new head of the FBI or Secret Service office should be Robert Downey Jr. Cameo.
I can do, right.
Second time he's been cast in this segment.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Boom.
I think Mike cast him in Pelham.
Yeah,
week.
Mike cast him in Pelham.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a good other than a revenge plot with the two like happy women, criminal women in the black Ferrari chasing him down. It's just a long series of revenge and murder, and we could have some counterfeiting in there. That's fine.
Okay. Are we going to keep Jane Leaves?
Yeah.
And now she can actually have a name?
That's great.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, we'll find out her name finally.
That is great.
Still does modern dance.
Of course she still does modern dance.
I mean, she's still on the modern dance circuit.
Yeah, of course.
In Kiss makeup.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's come back around.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like you could get a little cameo by John Turturro, who's probably still in prison. You got to have a good car chase. Do you want are we doing just actors first or?
Yeah.
You could have the ghost of Richard Chance still talking to Vukovich and have like a little William Peterson, like an evil Obi-Wan Kenobi.
And we're going to de-age him.
Must we go supernatural?
It's not supernatural. He's
crazy.
He's a spiraling out of control.
He's
cop,
hallucinating.
For
40 years.
Does the ghost have douchebag cop sunglasses also?
I mean, if they're outside, yeah.
Yeah, and they sort of reflect in each other's mirrored sunglasses.
But he only reflects in Vukovich's sunglasses. If anybody else is there,
right?
It's just his.
Right.
Oh, that's a brilliant little tidbit.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
All right. You have your crew though too, right? You've got your chosen crew for this sequel.
I do have some ideas of crew.
All right.
Okay.
So for director, I'm between Gareth Edwards.
Wow. Good. Yeah.
What do I know him from?
He directed Rogue One.
Oh, okay.
The new Godzilla movie, that movie Monsters was pretty excellent. Between him, or this is a slight weird one, but I like his story fixing, would be Christopher McQuarrie, who's done the last few Mission Impossibles.
Oh, okay.
A decent balance of weave a little, tweak the story and some good action, like a solid.
Yeah.
Plus, you got to sell it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With that tagline from the writer who brought you.
Yeah. Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
What?
Mission
6,
Impossible
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
And 26. Yeah. Right.
And then cinematographer, I'm between Emmanuel Lubetsky.
I mentioned him in a few episodes back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or Bradford Young.
Actually, now that I think about it, that Lubensky you mentioned, what film? Because of Revenant, I chose him for American Friend. We're both asking the same cinematographer to take Robby Muller's place.
Yeah, because you're thinking of who can do it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because you think like Children of Men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Birdman.
It's a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then for music, I could I'm going really like on some ways basic. You go Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross.
Oh, yep.
So funny. Mike was like last week. He was like, "Don't pick Trent Reznor or Atticus Ross."
You did.
Well, my wild card for music is this band Electric Youth, who's kind of a 80s synth band, but they're current.
Oh, if we want to have the Wang Chung
full
vibe.
Wang Chung vibe.
So we were very close on that. Go ahead. We were very close on that.
Those are the ones I have. So
okay.
So my sequel is the story of John, the partner, right?
Yep, Vukovich.
He's already been thrown out of the force, right? But also Turturro has gotten out of jail and has actually redeemed himself for real.
Oh.
And the two of them by some circumstances that I haven't fully worked out yet, start their own detective agency.
Oh my God.
With the help of Daphne, right?
Of course. Yep.
But what ends up happening is it becomes more of a story of, get this, John Turturro trying to get John, the partner, the now corrupt douchebag cop, back to the side of good. Like he's trying to almost redeem him in a way without saying it out loud. The subtext is this man was sent from an unlikely place to save his soul.
Oh.
So that's really the film you're watching. Now, Devon mentioned that her husband is Spock, right?
He is,
and,
yeah.
We're cousins who married sort of the same person in a sense, because my wife is Spock. So I think that the caper might, let's say maybe it happens at like a Dragon Con or something.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So this way they'll watch it. They'll watch our work because they don't even listen to the show.
No, they do not listen to the show.
Right. So to appeal to them specifically, because I'm going to be a little indulgent here, we're going to call it To Live Long and Prosper in PA. But my director is Helena. I'm going to butcher her name. It's spelled Reijn. She just did Baby Girl.
Okay.
My cinematographer, this is because I already chose someone to replace Muller before. I wasn't going to make that choice twice. And this person is still acting, but based on his work in Angel Heart would be Michael Soresin.
Okay.
He's still working and he still shoots like the Dickens. Wow. So,
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
My soundtrack, because Cody went with, what was the name of the band you went with?
Electric Youth.
Electric Youth. Mine was The War on Drugs. Because it had a foot in both the present and, yeah.
Great minds.
So, yeah, I was like, music by the War on Drugs. So it's up to the audience which new version of To Live and Die in L.A. you'd like to see. And let us know.
Yes.
But before we end the show, there's a couple little footnotes that I have to mention about this film. Wrap it up in a neat little bow. Because it's going to be a while before we get to visit a Robby Muller film again. And again, he's the reason why I love film, period. One of the reasons, but the biggest reason why I love film as a whole. One of William Friedkin's last interviews, he mentioned that he was heavily influenced by Robby Muller after making this film and learned composition from Robby Muller. This is after he'd already made the films he will always be remembered for. He'd already made The Exorcist. He'd already made French Connection, and it's a sequel. But when he shot this film, he said he learned film composition from Robby Muller, which I thought was a great story. Another great story about Billy Friedkin, or just to give you who he is in a nutshell, that I can say on the radio, is that because wow, his stories. But I'll tell you one thing he did, and just let you know, he does this often. The studio hated the ending of this film because they're like, you killed the protagonist. But remember, The Departed hasn't happened yet.
Right.
And nobody over here is like, neither is Infernal Affairs or any, like, it hasn't happened yet. So the studio's dead set against this. They're like, nope, we hate all of this. So he gets that note and films an alternate ending. He filmed one where the partners survive. Both of them survive, but they get like, had almost a comedic ending. They get stationed in Alaska as punishment for this whole debacle.
Oh.
Like, womp, womp, right?
Yeah.
That's the version he shows the studio and then just puts out his version anyway. And that is William Friedkin in a nutshell, because he's done that several times.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, where really great example in this film. Peterson, there's a chase scene where he's chasing Turturro in the airport, and he's on those little walkways, right? Those like Peterson leapt onto the top of that thing and is barreling through the people. He was told by the airport people, "You can't do that. We can't let you do that." And he was like, "We've done this. This is how we did it in rehearsal." And they were like, "Yeah, we're not going to let you do that. You're not shooting that." William Friedkin takes Peterson aside and says, "Listen, I'm going to yell at you right now. That there's no way I'm going to let you do that. And then I want you to do the shot however you feel is comfortable for you. Like nudge, nudge, wink, wink. So there, sure enough, he dresses him down in the airport. Don't you dare do that. No, we can't do that. They just told us no. And then Peterson, sure enough, does it anyway. Gets berated by the people in the airport. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I just might. This is his excuse. That's just the way I rehearsed it. Like it's muscle memory to do such a thing. Right. And William Friedkin promised them he wouldn't use that footage because what they were concerned about that starting a trend in the airports because those were relatively new.
Right.
Those walkways that are also escalators, right? So William Friedkin said, no, we won't use that take. And that's how I would like to leave this episode with stories of Robby Muller and who William Friedkin was beyond the guy who just yelled at a little girl to get the desired effect or whatever the stories are in The Exorcist. You know, he was a hell of a filmmaker, but also he wasn't a filmmaker. Billy Friedkin was hands-on. He was almost a rogue filmmaker. And that's what made him as awesome as he is. And that's it. That's why we remember him.
Yeah.
So that being said, next week we are going to do Amelie, which I am very excited about. We're going to watch Amelie. So if we got to this point in the show, go ahead and watch it so we can talk about it next week. I think that's a really good idea.
Yes. It's one of my all-time faves, like every other woman my age on the planet.
Yes, I love the film too. And I'm not a woman nor your age.
This is true.
I just thought about that. I just did math. Yeah. So that being said, we're your studio property. I'm Doug Wartell.
I'm Devon Irby.
I'm Cody Ramone.
And scene.
Studio Property is a production of Spillway Street Content in Red Hook, New York, and syndicated on Radio Free Rhinecliff. Theme song by The Corner Bodega. Visit StudioPropertyShow.com to get all up in our beeswax. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Spillway Street.